L'chaim of the bracha. L'chaim. Tonight we are celebrating Melaveh Malkah, Sudas David Malkah Mashiach, and we're connecting ourselves to the great Tzaddik, Rabbi Michel of Zlotchov, known as Rabbi Michel Zlotchov. Now, the month, we usually try to connect it to a tzaddik whose yahrzeit is in that month. Rabbi Michel Zlotchov's yahrzeit is not in the month of Tevis. Rabbi Michel Zlotchov's yahrzeit is on the 25th day of Elul. Chaf Elul, the day of the creation of the world, that's when he passed away. But I was sparked to make tonight's Melaveh Malkah in honor of Michel Zlotchov is because I saw that two of his sons passed away in the Chodesh Tevis. And I think I was tricked. I think I was deceived because I only found that one of his sons. When I saw in one sefer, it said two, I was reading it had two of the sons. But now when I look in this sefer of Beis Zlotchov, it seems to be more accurate. It's one of his sons. Rabbi Yosef Miyampel, and the Michel of Zlotchov had 5 sons, in which he said that these are the Chamishei Chumshei Torah. It's not that they're corresponding to the Chamishei Chumshei Torah. They are Chamishei Chumshei Torah. This is the Torah, the Torah coming down in a physical body. The Michel Zlotchov, the holiness of the Michel Zlotchov is not even possible to talk about. And he brought down these 5 sons, and these were the 5 Chamishei Chumshei Torah, and he knew which one exactly, who was Bereshis, who was Shmois, who was Vayikra, and who was Bamidbar, and who was Devarim. And 2 of his sons, what I read, were Nistalik and Tevis. But now when I look over here, I see one, but the oldest one, Rabbi Yosef of Yampel, whose yahrzeit is actually Chavdal Tevis, same yahrzeit of the Alter Rebbe. And his yahrzeit is a year before the Alter Rebbe, in Tovkuf Ayin Beis, in 1812. The Alter Rebbe passed in 1811. The Alter Rebbe passed away in the year 1812, Tovkuf Ayin Gimel. The year before that is the oldest son of the Michel of Zlotchov, yahrzeit. So because I saw that, and I thought it's 2 of his children, I said, okay, I'm not going to speak about the children before I speak about the father. And since we don't do Melaveh Malkah and Elul, because we have long matzahs that's late, we do one for Chayel or whatever, but so I figured we're going to take this week's Tevis and month of Tevis and dedicate it to the Michel Zlotchov. Now, so first is the connection of when we're speaking about such a tzaddik of the Michel Zlotchov and celebrating Melaveh Malkah with pizza. So what's the connection of the Michel Zlotchov with pizza? I can tell you the Michel Zlotchov had no shaykhs to pizza at all, because from all the tzadikkim that had no shaykhs to gashmias, Rabbi Michel Zlotchov is beyond, beyond, beyond. But yet, there is a shaykhis of Rabbi Michel Zlotchov to cheese and to pizza. I actually said this story one time by one of the Melaveh Malkahs. I read that story that day, and I said, there's a story that's not related to the tzaddik that we're talking about, but I have to explain why we're having pizza from Melaveh Malkah. So here's the connection. And this is a story that goes in with the story. Rabbi Aaron of Belz was the saintly previous Belzer Rebbe, Rabbi Aaron of Belz, who the Rebbe said about him that I saw him, and he's a tzura without a chaymer. He's just a pure spirit without any physicality. That's what the Rebbe said about Rabbi Aaron of Belz, who Rabbi Hecht has a brother named after Rabbi Aaron of Belz. Every time we speak about the Rabbi Aaron of Belz, we have to mention that. The rabbi in San Francisco is named after the holy saintly Rabbi Aaron of Belz, Rabbi Hecht from San Francisco. In any case, Rabbi Aaron of Belz once asked his father, Rabbi Yisachar of Belz. He asked him, what does it say about Moshe Rabbeinu? That Moshe Rabbeinu went up to heaven and he didn't eat bread. He didn't eat bread. He didn't drink any water. And he asked, is that the biggest thing that happened to Moshe Rabbeinu when he went up to heaven? The biggest thing that Moshe Rabbeinu had that he went to the Eibishter is he sat and he learned Torah with the Eibishter. Like the fact that he didn't eat and drink, that's a big deal. And you can tell why he's asking. Rabbi Aaron of Belz, to he too, eating wasn't that important. So he asked his father, why do we make such a big deal? Mayim lo yishasa, lechem lo yochal, mayim lo yishasa. So his father said, I will answer you with a story of your own Zayden. He said, the story is with Rabbi Aaron of Chernobyl. Rabbi Aaron of Chernobyl is the son of Ramotel of Chernobyl. He was Marich Yomim very, very long. He was a very great tzaddik. He was the Zayda from the Belzer Rebbes. So Rabbi Aaron of Chernobyl was once, he used to tell stories of Tzadikkim. I think he would start telling stories when he would be putting away his tefillin, and he would tell stories. So I think the Belzer Rebbe said, I was there myself, when this happened. And he was busy, and he started telling stories. And he had so many stories of Tzadikkim that he was standing there for hours and hours, and it came like, he started in the morning, and it was like late afternoon, and he was still didn't, and everybody was standing around, and no one left, because they were so transfixed by the stories that he was relating that no one left. And so someone said to him, they make someone said to the Baron of Chernobyl, he said, they make a big deal about Moshe Rabbeinu. We didn't eat and didn't drink for 40 days and 40 nights. We're standing already over here a few hours, and no one is thinking of eating and drinking, because it's the stories that you're telling. So no one has thought of. So the Baron of Chernobyl said, you think what the Torah is telling you is that Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to brag that he didn't eat and didn't drink? That's why he was saying in the Torah, Moshe Rabbeinu wrote in the Torah that I didn't eat and didn't drink. He didn't say, it says about Moshe in third person. That was because it wants to say Moshe Rabbeinu's greatness. That's not what it is. Moshe Rabbeinu is krechzing. Moshe Rabbeinu is sighing that Nebuch, what he had to forgo for the sake of the Jewish people. He went to get them the Torah, and because of that, he didn't eat for 40 days and 40 nights, and all the food that he didn't eat was having tinus, that Moshe Rabbeinu was not elevating the food. So Moshe Rabbeinu was seeing it as a sacrifice that he had, that the food, and he said, and I'll tell you the story. That Michel of Zlotchov once was ill. He fell ill. And his son, one of his sons' name was Reb Mordechai. His youngest of the 5 sons was named Reb Mordechai of Kremnitz. So Reb Mordechai of Kremnitz, or maybe a son-in-law, that's what it is. No, it was also not. Okay. Reb Mordechai of Kremnitz was his son, decided that he's going to seek help for Refuah Shalema for his father. And for that reason, he was going to go to the Pinchas of Koretz. Now, I just want to give you a moment here. Who is Reb Michel of Zlotchov? Reb Michel Zlotchov is a student of the Baal Shem Tov. So this is the first generation of Hasidim. He's a Talmud of the Baal Shem Tov. He's from the great, incredible students of the Baal Shem Tov. And his colleagues and friends were the Pinchas of Koretz, the Magid, the Mezritcha Magid. This is the first generation of Chassidish Rabbeim. So when he was sick, his son, Mordechai, said, I'm going to go to the Pinchas of, he didn't want it, but he didn't tell his father. He's going to seek a bracha from Reb Pinchas of Koretz. And the reason he didn't want to tell his father, because Reb Pinchas of Koretz and a Michel of Zlotchov didn't see eye to eye. I don't know the reasons. What was going on? These are Talmidei Baal Shem Tov. So he decided not to tell his father. He went to the Pinchas of Koretz. So when he came to the Pinchas of Koretz, as soon as he walked in, the Pinchas of Koretz said, like without even, without him saying anything. He says, you came, your father's not doing well. Your father's not. Tell your father, he said, the reason he fell sick is because he doesn't eat any cheese. The Pinchas of Koretz, the Michel Zlotchov had was machmer not to eat cheese. So he doesn't eat cheese. And the cheese went up in Shemayim, and as a taina, that how come it's not being elevated? Through the Michel of Zlotchov is not elevating. Tzadikkim elevate everything that they touch and everything they eat. And the food is have a taina, cheese is having a taina that it's not being elevated. And that's why he became sick. So tell your father to start eating cheese, and he's going to be all okay. And this, you should tell your father something else. This that he has an akped on me. He's upset. He he's like, it's because he doesn't see my tefillas, my prayers. When he's up there in the heavens, he doesn't see my prayers going up. Doesn't see my prayers. But you should know, tell your father that he doesn't see my prayers when I daven, is because I paved myself a road directly to the Eibishter. So my prayers don't go through any of the worlds, don't go anywhere. They go straight to the Eibishter. And he said, and he's going to ask you, he's going to say, Vanet is something like this. Where do you take something like this? That so he says, look in I think he said, he quoted him a Gemara, and he said, look over there where it says, Vayamoid Pinchas, that Pinchas, and his name is also Pinchas. Vayamoid Pinchas, referring to Pinchas in the Chumash, Vayafalel. It's a pasuk not in Chumash, it's a pasuk in Tehillim. Vayamoid Pinchas Vayafalel. That's the lashon over there, and the Gemara says. Let me tell you already what the lashon was. And the Gemara says regarding that, lekamida deloy remiza by Raisa. He says it says over there vayavam Pinchas vayafalel vayatotzerim agav Omer Rebbe Lazar vayispalel loy nemar. It doesn't say that he davened usually vayispalel ela vayifalel. Malamed, from here you see she'asa plilus im koinoi. He made plilus, means, I guess, I didn't look up the Gemara, but it seems like he made direct contact with the Eibishter. What does that mean? Is that the tefillas of Pinchas, no one sees it, only the Eibishter. And that's the meaning that he made plilus im koinoi. So tell Michel that this is the story. When he came back to his father immediately says to him, you were by the Pinchas. He didn't even tell him where he was. You were by the Pinchas. And he tried to get out of it because he realized he's in trouble now. His father figured it or knew whatever. So he says, don't be afraid. He says, I know you were by him. And what did he tell you? So he told him the reason you're ill is because you're not eating cheese. So he says, no, good. I'm accepting upon myself to eat cheese. He says, what else did he tell you? So he told him the reason why your father is makpid of me because he doesn't see my prayers. He says, and told him the reason. He says, look in the Gemara in Sanhedrin. That's what he said. He just said, look in the Gemara, look in Masechta Sanhedrin, Daf Mem Daled Amud Aleph. Check it out over there, and you'll see why he doesn't see my prayers. So the Michel says, that he arrived already to this level. This I didn't think. This didn't occur to me that he reached at that place. Talking about prayers going right up to the Eibishter. Since we're talking about prayers, we know that the Michel once removed a threat of a chedim that the Chachmei Brod wanted to put on the Baal Shem Tov. The Chachmei Brod, the Michel Zlotchov lived in Brod in his youth. When he was a boy, he lived in Brod. And then he went back there at certain times. So he once was in, and we know that the Chachmei Brod, these were the greatest scholars, and they're led by in a klois. There was a special klois, a special shul where the biggest scholars of the time learned, And the head scholar's name was Reb Chaim Tzanzer. This is not the Reb Chaim of Tzanz, the Hasidic Rebbe, Reb Chaim of Tzanz. That's much later. But this is a real misnagid, but a goyen adir. His name was Reb Chaim Tzanzer, and these were a group of people who learned with him. And these were goyne goynim. These were like the greatest of the greatest. Anyways, they heard about the Baal Shem Tov. Baal Shem Tov wasn't so far from Brod. And they heard about the Baal Shem Tov, and they were suspicious, obviously. Like later, the Yisnagdis became much stronger, but in the beginning, very suspicious. And they wanted to put our two stories regarding this. I'm just going to tell you right now one of the stories. And the Baal Shem Tov sent Rabbi Michel to go there for Shabbos. And Michel came in there, and they didn't know who he was. And he was there sitting on the side, doing his own thing. And he heard Reb Chaim Tzanzer announce and say that the Baal Shem Tov, who is he? He says, at least you would think that he knows Kabbalah, but he doesn't even know mysticism. He doesn't even know Kabbalah. This is what he said Friday night to the people there. And the people were silent. I'm sorry, Reb Michel was quiet. He didn't say anything. Came Shabbos day, and again, Reb Chaim Tzanzer dismissed the Baal Shem Tov. He says, what does he know? Kabbalah, he doesn't either learn. Then it came Shalosh Shudas, it was in the 10, and again he made that comment. As it was the third time he made the comment, and Michel knew that it's time to say something. And then Michel spoke up, and he said like this. He said, what do you mean the Baal Shem Tov doesn't know Kabbalah? He says, you don't know Kabbalah. You don't know anything, he said. You don't know Kabbalah. And the proof to that is, he says, during the davening, there was a Yid over here, your Chazan, I think, or someone over here is a big Baal Aveda, and does a lot of sins, and you're not even margish. You don't even sense anything. So what do you guys know? And he says, and you want to know about the Baal Shem Tov and Kabbalah, let me tell you about the Baal Shem Tov. He says there is a Yid in this town. His name is Chaim Griner. Chaim the green one. Why do they call him Chaim the Greener? He was a very, very poor man, and he had a lot of suffering in his life. And he would always complain about his life, and he would always say, I'd be better off if I died already. This is what this Chaim would always say. He would always complain. He said, why do I have to live? I would have been better off if I died. It was the day, and there was someone that was supposed to be picked up by the name of Chaim ben something. That happened to be the same name like this Chaim. And the Malach HaMavis was seeking out the Chaim ben so and so. He happened to pick up the wrong Chaim. He picked up this Chaim who used to always say about himself, I wish I would die. So anyway, they picked him up, and then he says, oops, got the wrong guy. So meanwhile, this Chaim, he wasn't supposed to die, so he was now hanging around, and he didn't know, and because usually when someone passes away, there's a whole setup. The malachim that come out to greet him, there's the good malachim, the other malachim. But this Chaim, because he wasn't on the schedule to die that day, the malachim look up, there's a certain whatever chart, and his name wasn't on the chart, so no one came out. So he's wandering. So because he was wandering, he got to wander. This is Rabbi Michel telling the story. He said he got to wander everywhere. He got to stick his nose in everywhere because no one was watching him. So he had like the floating soul. He was like moving around. He was going here. He's checking out over there, checking over there. Somehow in the midst of his wanderings, he got up to the Beis Din Shalmaila. And they said to him, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? And he said, I don't know. I died. I'm here. So they called him Malach. Malach said, yeah. I know. It was my mistake. My mistake. He said, but you know what? I figured it's, the guy anyway says he wants to die all the time. I figured I'll do him a favor. Understand? I'll do him a favor. I picked him up. So the Beis Din Shalmaila said, and therefore once he's here already, deal with him. Beis Din Shalmaila said, no. There's no such a thing. He's supposed to live. You got to put him back. So they put him, but he said, hold it. He drank already. He got already the green droplet. The Gemara says when the Malach HaMavis comes, he drops what causes the death is that he gives a droplet, a green drop, and that's the panim marikos, is the green, and that's the poison. He says he got it already. How can I put him back? He says no, so he'll be called Chaim the Greener, and that's what happened. He came back to life, and he had a green tinge to him all the time because he was already post the other side. So he relayed, this is what Michel says, Rab Chaim related what he saw while he was wandering around before they sent him back. What did he see? He came to a place where he saw there was Schwindeltrepp. In Chassidus, Chassidus speaks a lot about Schwindeltrepp. What are Schwindeltrepp? Schwindeltrepp are spiral stairs. And he saw staircases with malachim on the stairs. Like amazing staircase. And angels are on each stair. And they stand higher and higher. And it looked like it went on forever. And he was wondering, what is this? And he realized that this is the staircase. This is Yerushalayim Shalmaila. This is the staircase that goes up to the heavenly Jerusalem, where all the prayers go up. And what's the job of the angels? When the prayer comes up, when the tefillah comes up, the Zohar says that the prayer, that the malachim kiss the prayers. What does that mean? They have to filter it. Because the prayers come up, you know what we're thinking during Ashrei. First day is the last day, and by Hallelujah we're thinking something else. And by Shirul Hashem Shei Chodesh, we have already by Varech David is something else. And there's all kinds of stuff that go on in a person's mind. The malachim have to clean it. So they filter it out. So what happens is the first group of malachim, they receive the prayers. They do filtering number one. They're like the real coarse stuff. They filter it out. What happens as soon as the prayers passes them, these malachim jump and they jump into the mikveh. Because they need to cleanse themselves from all this gook that they just received from filtering the prayer. There's a special mikveh called Nahar Dinar, the river of fire. So these angels jump into the mikveh. Then it goes to the next group. They do a second filter, and they also jump into the mikveh. So it goes higher and higher and higher and higher. This is what he's observing. He's seeing the malachim jumping in the mikveh, cleansing prayers. When in the middle, he sees this powerful flame of fire that comes shooting up, and it sees it like zooming up the stairs, like around up shoots up. The malachim get terrified. All the angels, they jump in fear. They all back off. No one is standing there, and it shoots right up. And he can't see it as far as it goes. And then he asked around, what's that? What just happened? They said, this is the Amen Yehesh Meid Abba of a fellow Michel Zlotchov. When he said Amen Yehesh Meid Abba, this is a Michel telling the story that he's giving over from this Chaim Griner, a student of the Baal Shem Tov. That Michel Zlotchov said Amen Yehesh Meid Abba, it shoots up through all this, the malachim can't even go close to it, and it goes great up to the Eibishter. So he turned to the Chaim Tzanzer and he said, and I, Michel Zlotchov, I'm the least of the Baal Shem Tov students. So if you want to know who the Baal Shem Tov is, he said, don't mess. So they were very taken aback. They saw that he's not talking Stam Shtusim. And they were very taken aback, and this was one of the times that he was in Prague. There was another time when he was ready to make a chedem on the Baal Shem Tov, and he actually stopped it. But Be'ezras Hashem, we'll speak about it. But l'chaim u'lebracha, the prayers of Rabbi Michel, l'chaim u'lebracha. L'chaim, l'chaim. For you. L'chaim on the bracha. L'chaim Betzalel. Guys, don't be shy. Come get l'chaim. L'chaim on the bracha, everyone. So, the thing about a Michel of Zlotchov is that Michel, first of all, I do want to mention before today's Melaveh Malkah was sponsored by the Tzadikkim family. They were such a bench them with all the brachas. Beruchnis begashmi is gam yochad. Also, today's Melaveh Malkah is Lili Nishmas Rabbi Yankel Greenbaum. All of our shalom was Yortzeit. Isn't Tavis? I'm not sure which day. Passed away 2 years ago. Rabbi Greenbaum's father from the Cheder, Rabbi Yankel Greenbaum, Rabbi Yaakov ben Shmuel Yosef. Right? May Hashem have a great aliyah. Also, we have a birthday here, being mishtatif in today's Fabrengen. Reb Shalom El Harar. Tonight is his birthday. Happy birthday and a shnas bracha and hatzlacha. One of those pizza pies is your birthday cake. Wow, Betzalel's birthday is tonight. You don't tell anybody it's your birthday. Shnas bracha and hatzlacha. Wow. Oh, wow, that's right. What's her name? Give us her name. Paro Bas. And her Chaim. Shama should have an aliyah. Chaim. Also, the month of Tavis was sponsored by David Hachen family in Mayan. So all the blessings to David for everything and all the brachas. L'chaim and the And the Eibusher should help that everybody should be blessed. Miyada yarchave v'amleya. B'schus all the tzadikkim. Kedoishe elyon. So the interesting thing about Michel is that Michel comes from a line of tzadikkim that it's hard even to imagine. You know, they said about Michel that he comes from 72 generations. That's a lashon, or 60 generations of every generation with Bali Ruach HaKodesh. We're talking about tzadikkim kedoishe elyon. The whole line is incredible. The Zayde also met the Baal Shem Tov, and the Zayde went up to Eretz Yisrael. He was trying to go together with the Baal Shem Tov. His name was Rabbi Yosef Sparvidiliver. The reason they called him Sparvidiliver, and I guess I'm not a man of truth. Does that sound like Sparvidiliver? You hear that? I'm not sure. In any case, the non-Jews called him that because they knew he was the grandfather. His father died al Kiddush Hashem, was killed for the sanctification of Hashem's name. And it's an amazing story. It says about the great-grandfather's father's father. And when he passed away, they killed him in a most horrific manner, unbelievable. And yet he was saying that he feels, and they were asking him, how is he surviving? He was a big tzaddik. How's he in like, and he said, until you even asked me, I didn't even know that anything was happening. He said there was no pain at all. Like we spoke about Rabbi Akiva. He was just beyond, very, very big tzaddikim. His father is very known in the Chassidish world as Rabbi Yitzchak Drobitcher, the father of Rabbi Michel Zlotchov, and he was also a chassid of the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov said about his father, Rabbi Yitzchak of Drobitch, this is what the Bnei Yissaschar brings. So we're not talking about Stam story here. The Bnei Yissaschar brings in a sefer that when Rabbi Yitzchak, when Rabbi Michel Zlotchov came to the Baal Shem Tov said to him, do you know who your father was? He says, your father, Rabbi Yitzchak Drobitcher, they gave him a very, very, very low neshama. A very, kamat not shayach, a lower neshama. And he elevated his neshama with his work to be on the madrega of Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. This is Rabbi Yitzchak Drobitcher, a crazy whole tzaddikim. Anyways, when Reb Michel was, this is a hard story to digest. I don't know if I should tell the story, but it's still a very geschmacka story. Just to give you an insight of who we're talking about. We're talking about people that were pashat shaloim al-medain. They're not like, there's like nothing physical about them. They're like totally of a whole different breed. Almost like when you read about them, you're thinking you're reading about like the sages of the Zohar. It's like the Eibusher like delivered a package of tzaddikim that were like completely otherworldly. In any case, when Rabbi Yitzchak Drobitcher had children, he would always ask his wife, after she had the baby, to bring the child before him, to see the baby. He would bring. I mean, he was a tzaddik. He was currently mufresh from this world. He wants to see the baby. And he would look at the baby and he would go, and sadly, he looked and he said, nah. He said, nah. And the nah was guiding him that the baby, that it didn't last. He said more than once, nah. When she was pregnant with Rabbi Michel, and when he was born, he said to her, bring the baby. She said, no. She says, I'm not showing you the baby. He said, no. She said, until you promise that this is a keeper. So they brought the baby in front of Rabbi Yitzchak. He looked at the baby and he said, no, ich hab schon verschickt Schönere von ihm. I sent away even higher ones than him. But you know what? I made a deal. Ich hab schon geschickt. Crazy stories, like anyways. The Rabbi Yitzchak, but the Michel, it was said about him. It said about him that he wasn't born from a tipa gashmis. There was nothing got the Michel's Zlotchov. It was pure ruchnius. The Maggid said about him that he's born from zivug neshikin, the spiritual neshama like this. The Maggid used to go here Torah from the Michel's Zlotchov because Torah was higher than the Maggid in terms of spirituality because he was nothing physical. Just to give you a little understanding, we don't understand anything about these tzaddikim. When he was a young boy, and he was learning, he was in the city of Brod, and his father, he used to learn by his father. His father was his teacher, and they were learning. And they spent a few years learning together. And then, and even though abroad there were big yeshiva, big Talmidei Chachamim and places to learn, but he learned with his father. At a certain time, he had some fallout with his father. I don't know what it was. I'm sure it wasn't Narishkeit, but some kind of a fallout he had with his father. So he said, okay, goodbye. He's going to the yeshiva in Brod. Who was the Rosh Yeshiva then? Who was the one teaching? Rab Itzchak Hamburger. Okay, this is one of the greatest goyim. And he was a goyin out there. Now, when this young boy came in town, they knew that Rabbi Yitzchak of Drobich has a son that's like an Eloi Nifla. He's an unbelievable genius. He's some otherworldly type of a child. So when he came to the yeshiva, the Bachrim got very excited because they were happy that this boy, he was much younger than them, but he was known to be such a genius. They were very happy that he came. So they okay. He stayed in yeshiva, I think, there for a few days, 3 days, I think. He went to the shir of Rabbi Yitzchak Hamburger, and then he stopped coming. He left, and he went back to his father, and he continued learning with his father. He made up with his father, continued learning with his father. The Bachrim in the yeshiva were upset. They were sure that Rabbi Yitzchak Hamburger was such a goyin, and he was probably a bigger goyin than Rabbi Yitzchak of Drovich. The Rosh Yeshiva there, he's a goyin shebegoyin, he's a genius of genius. They was upset that they thought he would be blown away by the shir and he'd want to stay. And then he left. So they decided to go and wait. They waited outside his house. When he comes out, they'll ask him. So they waited and waited. And when they saw the boy came out, I don't know, he was still before his bar mitzvah. He's a young kid. And they asked him, why did he stop coming to the shir? So he said, listen here, the only one that ever taught me Torah is my father. And when I learn Torah with my father, I see from every word that he speaks with his mouth, flames of fire. The letters that go out are fiery letters. I'm watching the fiery letters coming out, and they're ascending up to heaven. The letters of fire. I didn't see this when I was by the shir in the thing. This I didn't see. The letters of fire I didn't see. And because I didn't see that, I couldn't learn by it. That's not where I'm going to learn. So it's a little boy seeing the letters of fire, and that's who he's learning Torah with, only when he sees these godly letters. Today I mentioned the story that in the morning when we were learning Chassidus, that Rabbi Michel was once holding tefillin by his son's bar mitzvah. And he was holding the tefillin. It was Rabbi Yitzchak of Rodville, was one of his sons. And Michel was holding the tefillin, and he looked at it, and he suddenly starts, it's the day of his bar mitzvah, he's going to put on tefillin for the first time. Well, the first time he's putting on tefillin, I'm not sure, maybe it was a month before, whatever. And Michel is weeping and crying and crying. And he says to his son, he says, Du weißt, when I was your age, listen to this. When I was your age, hab ich gewusst, I knew ma l'mayla, what is above, ma l'mata, and what is below. And look at you now. Like, I knew ma l'mayla, ma l'mata. So his son was quick. And his son says, Akunz, you had a father, a tzaddik. Du hast gehabt a tata, a tzaddik. He said it because he knew that Rabbi Michel wouldn't say, and du hast a tata, a tzaddik. So he knew that Rabbi Michel wouldn't say that your father is also a tzaddik. But that was the thing. L'chaim. L'chaim, l'chaim. Rabbi Michel of Zlotchov has a special connection to Nagina. The Baal Shem Tov said that Rabbi Michel had access to the Heichal of song. And he would go into the Heichal of song and pull out Nigune Hisoidus, and very, very powerful Nigunim that Michel brought down from Heichal Nagina. As we will sing soon, the famous Nigin is what the Friediger Rebbe writes. The Friediger Rebbe writes that the Baal Shem Tov said that the Michel Zlotchov is the one who can pull out nigunim from the Heichel of nigunim, very, very powerful songs. There's two nigunim that we know from the Michel. One is the famous Oides Rachmim Rabim niggun, which we're going to soon sing, which has a special story to it, which we're going to get to. In addition to that, one of the nigunim that we see as the Alter Rebbe's niggun, one of the 10 nigunim of the Alter Rebbe that is known to be the Alter Rebbe's niggun, there is a Yesh Oimrim, and probably a lot to base it on, that wasn't one of the Alter Rebbe's initial compositions, but rather the Alter Rebbe heard it when he spent Shabbos by the Michel of Zlotchov. The Alter Rebbe once spent Shabbos by the Michel of Zlotchov. The Maggid sent him there. He went to the Michel there, and he heard. And which niggun is that? That's the Michel is niggun. So we're going to get to that soon. But now give a Freilich in it. So Tzadikkim said that Ramichel's father, before he brought the holy neshama of Ramichel down to the world, he was misakin 1,000 gilgulim. It means till he was able to get what he wanted. Even though in the end he looks, he says, kashan geschickt verbessere. 1,000 gilgulim. His neshama. No, I don't know what that means. What 1,000 gilgulim means, weiß ich nicht. And the Kubrina Rebbe said that there are tzadikkim, as he says, gute Yidden means big Rebbes, that have been serving the Eibishter for many, many years. And they would wish for themselves that they should have a holy neshama like Ramichel's body. That their neshama should be with holy as the body of Michel of Zlotchov. Michel, here's a story from the Alter Rebbe. Mentioned before earlier that the Alter Rebbe was once. See, Michel, as we mentioned earlier, was a Talmud of Baal Shem Tov, so he was in the same generation as the Mizritcha Magid, and he would come visit. Sometimes he spent Shabbos by the Magid. The Magid was the official successor of the Baal Shem Tov. However, the Magid had all of his own students. But the first generation, they had their own courts. Not everybody. It wasn't like there was only one Rebbe. There were other Rebbes, including Michel was one of them, and their Pinchas Karetz was another one. So Michel came to the Mizritcha Magid for Shabbos. And Michel, however, had his own club, his own chassidim that came with him. And he feared his own tish. It means he sat by his own table. And the Magid went to hear Torah from Michel. But Michel did not come hear Torah from the Magid. And this bothered very much the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe was there that Shabbos. And the Alter Rebbe was very, very bothered by this, that the Magid went to hear Torah from Michel. Michel is not coming to the Magid. It threw chas v'shalom a little thought into the mind of the Alter Rebbe that maybe the Michel is higher than the Magid. And the Alter Rebbe was the person who always sought out the highest. He wasn't going to settle for second best. And it bothered him. After Shabbos, he decided he has to speak to the Magid. He must go in to speak to the Magid himself to find out what's going on. There was a shomer by the Magid. There was always a person, one of the students, they had a rotation, the students of the Magid. There was a rotation, who's guarding the door. Initially, when I heard the story, I heard that night was Reb Shlomo Karliner was in charge. Over here, the story is told that it was the Volpe. The Volpe was the other student of the Magid who was one of the only ones who was able to withstand the Torah of the Magid. The whole story about him another time. In any case, he was guarding. The Alter Rebbe said, I want to go into the Magid. I have to go see him. I have to go into the Rebbe. So the Volpe or Reb Shlomo Karliner said, I have instructions not to let anybody in. He says, but I must go in. He says, it's something is bothering me. I have to go in. He says, I'm sorry, you can't. So he said, but I'll tell you what to do. He says, when it comes midnight, the doors of the Magid's room are open. Why? Because it says in the Zohar that in Gan Eden, the doors of Gan Eden open at midnight. And the Magid down here is similar to the way things are up there. So if up there, the doors were open by the Magid, and then you're on your own. I'm a guard. The door is closed, I'm going to guard. But once the door is open, you run your own risk, do your own thing. The Alter Rebbe came into the Magid, and as soon as he came into the Magid, the Alter Rebbe related the story. As soon as he came into the Magid at midnight, he saw that on the Magid's face, he can see. And obviously, you have the eyes like the Alter Rebbe, you can see. You can see what's on the Magid's face. The famous story of the person who was said about that he's not a guf, that he's not a body. So he says, but I touched him and I saw that he's a body. So he said, I'm a tapt mit guf. If you touch with body, you'll feel body, but he's not a guf. So, when we have our physical eyes, we look at the Rebbe. What are we looking at? What do we know what we're looking at? Alter Rebbe was able to see. So the Alter Rebbe sees. He says he saw on the Magid all the partsufim elyonim. He saw the parts of Ze'er Anpin. He saw the parts of Abba and Ima, which is Chachma and Bina, and Erech Anpin and Atik Yoimin unoch Hecher. Everything that says all these madregas was all radiating on the Maggid's face. So I saw already. There is no question over here. Who is the Rebbe? Who is the Rebbe? I saw. But it still bothered me, if that's the case, how come he's going to hear Torah from the Michel? So I asked the Maggid. And the Maggid says, we learn the Alter Rebbe talks in Tanya, and Kabbalistic idea, that neshamas are born from various unions that take place in the supernal, in the divine attributes, in the godly attributes. There is a certain zivug that's called zivug neshikin, which is a more spiritual type of a zivug. And there's another zivug that's called zivug gufni, which is a more, obviously, we're talking about divine attributes. But yet, it's called, and the Maggid said, my neshama is from a zivug gufni, and the Michel's neshama is from a zivug neshikin, and therefore those neshamas are more spiritual. Although there is a maila in zivug of a guf, because that's where you get etzem. Atzmos is only in a zivug of guf. But in terms of spirituality and ruchnius wise, the Michel has a certain level of spiritual light, and that's why the Maggid went to hear Torah from him. It's known that Rabbi Michel of Zlotchov once was walking home from davening and from the mikveh erev Shabbos, and he sat down on a bench. And he sat on the bench for a while, and he was very famoichet. Going home from the mikvah on erev Shabbos, he was thinking. And after that, he got up and he continued. That night, by the Tish, by the Michel Zlotchov's Tish, he started saying Torah, and he spoke a Torah that the Chassidim never heard from him. He used to say very short, obviously abstract inyanim. His Torah was very spiritual, but very short. And here he was talking long Torah. And it was like a whole new type of Torah that they didn't know. The Chassidim were wondering. They thought, okay, maybe he's changing his way to teach in Arichos, explaining mystical concepts. In other words, the style of Chabad. That day's Chabad Chassidus wasn't known yet, because you're talking about the Michel Zlotchov had passed away in Tov Kuf Mem Aleph, 7-8 years after the Magid. So, but still, the Alter Rebbe was already laying the seeds then for Torah's Chabad. So the Michel Zlotchov said a Torah was like a lengthy, like a mimer. And everybody was wondering. The next day, by Shachris and by Mincha, by Shalosh Shudas, he continued saying his old style. Somehow someone asked him, maybe his sons, what happened? And he said, when he was going home from the mikveh and he sat down on the bench, is because he heard that in heaven they're chazering the mimer of the Alter Rebbe. This is the Alter Rebbe still, right? This is still, the Alter Rebbe wasn't even Rebbe then. He heard in Shemayim they're chazering the Torah of the Alter Rebbe, so he sat down to listen. So he listened to the mimer of the Alter Rebbe. And that mimer he chazered, he said over, and that's why he said a whole different type of Torah that they never heard from him. And they say the reason why he did that, and he chazered the Alter Rebbe's Torah, is because the Alter Rebbe spent the Shabbos with him. And he felt that he really wanted to take the Alter Rebbe's neshama. He wanted the Alter Rebbe. If you're looking for a student, that's who you would like to have. So a lot of times there were tug of wars between big tzadikkim on neshamas. He was trying to seduce the Alter Rebbe. I think it was on him that they say that he promised the Alter Rebbe, I'll teach you either a Pinchas of Karetz or him. One of the two said to the Alter Rebbe, I will teach you the language of the birds. I will teach you the language of the trees. I'll teach you the language of malachim. I'll teach you everything. Just come to me. And the Alter Rebbe said to him, Yechudei Allah and Yechudei Tata. That's all I want to know. I want to know the higher unity and the honor. You can teach that. That's only the teaching that comes through the Rebbe, the Nasi Hadar. Teaches Yechudei Allah and Yechudei Tata, the ultimate Rebbe. And that there's only one in the generation. So the Alter Rebbe stayed by the Maggid. Yeah. So wait, before the Baal Shem Tov passed away, similar to the Maggid, it says the same thing, that the Maggid, before he passed away, was speaking about the qualities of his students. It's famous. The Maggid said incredible things about Reb Zusha and about this one, about Reb Levi Yitzchak Berditchev, and he said incredible things about the Alter Rebbe. The Maggid was then Moine Shvachim. He was being Moine the Shvachim of his students. The Baal Shem Tov did the same thing. And the Baal Shem Tov said, the bed in you, which is the Maggid, he has Torah. The Pinchas, he has Chachma. He has wisdom. And the Michel, is God's kind. He's the Eberster's child. As God's kind. He's God's child. Talking about. Incredible. L'chaim. There's a story that there was once on the line to get dollars from the Rebbe. There was once someone who, and I don't remember all the details of the story, but as he was standing on line, there was a Satmar Chassid together on the line. And the Lubavitcher was talking to the Satmar Chassid. And the Satmar Chassid came for a specific reason. He wanted to see the Rebbe. He wanted to ask for a bracha. And the Lubavitcher was kind of in a discussion with him. And he said, "You're a Satmar, I see." So he was like kind of getting into the question like why Satmar was, at least at that time, not exactly so fond of Lubavitch. So this Satmar Chassid was saying that the problem that they have with Lubavitch is primarily that the Rebbe is so out there and bringing Yidden. He's Makarev, even Jews that are so far, and we know we have a Messiah from the Chassam. So from the, that there's more of a separation. We have to make a separation between religious and non-religious because you can learn from the negative ways. You have to protect yourself. More of a defense type of a situation. And this whole idea of getting out there and bringing Yidden close is something that we frown upon. So I think the story happened that when he came by the Rebbe gives him $1, and the Rebbe says to him, no, the Rebbe says, Kukarain Yismach Moshe in the Agdama. The Rebbe says to him, look in Yismach Moshe, which is a sefer, I'll say in a moment, and look in the introduction, like this. The guy didn't know what the Rebbe meant, what the Rebbe said, and he obviously went and he looked up the Agdama. I don't know, and it might even be that the Rebbe told him the story. It could be he left and he found the story himself. I think it was a video a few years ago. Someone put it out with the story. I heard it earlier, but it's a true story where the Rebbe said, "Look in the Akdam of Yismach Moshe." Yismach Moshe is the sefer from Ramoshe of Ihel, who is the founder of Ramoshe Teitelbaum, who is the founder of the Satmar lineage. He was a student of the Chayza from Lublin. He was a giant of a tzaddik. So in his sefer, in the Hagdam of Yismach Moshe, in the introduction, he brings a story as follows: that Rabbi Yitzchak of Drobich, the father of Rabbi Michel of Zlotchov, was in heaven. He once encountered and he met Rashi after he passed away. He met Rashi in Shemayim. And Rashi says to Rabbi Yitzchak of Drobich, he says, "What is it about your son that they make such a big deal about it?" on earth, they make such a big deal about your son Rabbi Michel. Why is it that all of heavens are shaking about your son Rabbi Michel? She said, my son Rabbi Michel, he's Isaac and Segufim. He purifies himself like crazy amount of Segufim and so on and so forth. Rashi says, nah, because he does all kinds of Segufim, not for that. He says, my son, he learns Torah, Yomam V'Layla, whatever. It says, not because of that. And he gave like 2 or 3 things, and everything Rashi said to him, that's not that. Then he said he was mekarev thousands of people to do tshuva. So he says, now I get it. He made Bali tshuva. He brought back so many people to do tshuva. So the Rebbe said to him, look in the Yismach Moshe in the Agdam. Can you imagine? Talk about it. Imagine Rash and Oilamis. Talk about the Rebbe. So it says around Michel's lot, the Rebbe right away pointed him. The Rebbe showed him from his own. The Rebbe said, look in Yismach Moshe in the Agdama, the story about Rabbi Michel's lot. Anyways, let's talk a little bit about the Shaykhs of Rabbi Michel's Zlotchov to the Holy Baal Shem Tov. So we begin with the story of his father. Rabbi Yitzchak Drobitcher was a Goyen with Tzaddik, a Kaddish, like unbelievable. And he heard about the Baal Shem Tov. And he became a chassid, but more like a friend chassid to the Baal Shem Tov. But here is the initial story, is that he heard that the Baal Shem Tov is a healer. The Baal Shem Tov was known as a healer. The Baal Shem Tov used to write kameis. It was a very common thing. The Baal Shem Tov would always write kameis. Kameis are amulets. Amulets. He didn't make omelets. He gave amulets. Okay. And he would write certain things, and he would give it to people, and people who were sick and so on and so forth, they would wear them, and there would be refuahs and all kinds of miracles. So he heard that, and he said he didn't like it, because it says, the Gemara says, the Mishnah says in Pirkei Avos, that if someone is mishtamish with Hashem's name, with the crown, it's not a good thing. And he thought that the Baal Shem Tov was making his kameis by writing certain permutations of Hashem's name, different names. That's what amulets usually were writings of different divine names, and that's what Kabbalists do. And he thought the Baal Shem Tov is doing. This is called Kabbalah Maisis. Kabbalah Maisis means you use Kabbalah to move around, to move nature. And so he didn't like it. So he announced, this is what he said. He stated, Rabbi Tzadikkim stated that he's canceling all of the Baal Shem Tov's kameis. He's basically deactivating them. He put a deactivation on the Baal Shem Tov's amulets. And what happened was, for an entire year, the Baal Shem Tov is writing kameis, and the Baal Shem Tov is almost going out of business. First taste, it's not working. People are supposed to get healed and stuff like that. And the Baal Shem Tov is trying to figure out who's jamming him. And he said he realized it was Rabbi Yitzchak of Drovich who jammed them. So the Baal Shem Tov made it that the Rabbi Yitzchak of Drovich should come to Mezhebish for Shabbos, and that he should spend Shabbos with him. What happened? He jammed the Baal Shem Tov, so the Baal Shem Tov jammed him as well. What happened was, he was traveling. He was supposed to go past where the Baal Shem Tov knew he was going. And the Baal Shem Tov messed with his sense of time, with his GPS of time, with his sense and he messed up his mind that he forgot, he lost track of time. And he thought that it was a day earlier. And it was on a Friday, and he thought it was Thursday. And he was planning to travel on. It was a Mezhebush on Thursday. He was planning to travel on. And but because it's Thursday. So he had time. So it was Friday afternoon, and it was only him. It was him. He had like a guy, but everybody, whoever was with him got jammed like that. And so they suddenly, they're ready to go put together the wagon and continue going because they're going to go to the next town. They walk out and they see the table is set for Shabbos and Chalas, and it seems like everything. And they ask what's going on. They look at him like you're criminal. What's going on? Shabbos soon. Like, what do you think? And he says, what do you mean Shabbos? It's Thursday. They said no. So then he goes out and he sees that everybody's running to the mikveh. And he realizes he can look through the windows. You see the tables are set everywhere. And they realize that it's Shabbos. It's going to be Shabbos. So quickly they prepare for Shabbos. And they ended up, the Baal Shem Tov sent someone, or he himself, I'm not exactly sure, came to ask that he should come eat by him. He said, no, I can't. I'm already been invited over here, and they prepared food for me, and I can't decline my host. And the Baal Shem Tov said, no, I spoke to them already. You could come to me. He says, but you're not going to have anything for me to eat. He says, no, I prepared a lot of food for you. Okay. So he comes to the meal, and the Baal Shem Tov made that everything they prepared, they should just give for him. He had some kind of a silver, that's the story. I don't understand the whole story, but he had some kind of a silver plate. And on the plate, it was written Shem Havaya, Yud Kei Vav Kei. And he would kind of put that plate on his finger, and he would hold it in front of him like this. And it would have a God's name on it, Yud Kei Vav Kei. And he was eating, and he ate, and he ate, and he ate, and he ate, and he ate up all the Machal Shabbos. Everything that was there, the entire fish, everything that was there, he finished, he packed up. And he says to the Baal Shem Tov, no, is there anything to eat, anything more? Baal Shem Tov said, you polished me off. I prepared so much. He says, but I'm hungry. And he put down the plate on the thing, and he said, and the Baal Shem Tov said to him these words, Ich hab angegret von Malachim. I prepared for angels, aber auf Srafim ich hab sich nicht gerachten. That I prepared for a malach, but I didn't prepare for a saraf. Srafim are, they burn everything. So the eating of him was like on a level of Srafim. Then the Baal Shem Tov said to him, but excuse me, I want to know, why did you deactivate my kameis? The Baal Shem Tov confronted him right then and there. What's going on with my kameis? Why did you deactivate it? So he says to him, because you're not allowed to be using the Eibishter's names. The Baal Shem Tov says, I don't have Hashem's name in any of my kameis. He says, what do you mean? He says, all I have is my name, Yisrael Ben Eliezer. That's the only thing that's written on my kameis. He says, no, it can't be. He says, go find out. So they had a few people come with kameis to the Baal Shem Tov. They opened them up. And I don't know if it's his mother's name or his father's name, but all the kameis were with the Baal Shem Tov's name. So I think it was after Shabbos that this happened. He stayed with him the whole Shabbos, I think Matzah Shabbos. So the Bitzikel turns around and he says, Rabbi Shalom, no, why do you care if a Yid has Parnasa from his name? Why does it bother you? As a Yid has Parnasa from he asked from the Baal Shem Tov that the Baal Shem Tov should give him a beget for Shabbos. That was the exchange, that he should reactivate his kameis. He should remove his kapeda. And from then on, the kameis worked again. But this was the meeting that the Baal Shem Tov had. Oh, and then the students of the Baal Shem Tov said to the Baal Shem Tov, how can it be? How does he have so much, your kameis? So he said, no, the Bitzikel is the tzaddik of the generation. He's a tzaddik hadoyer. And because of that, he has, he can't, if he decides something, that's the way it is. When the Michel came to the Baal Shem Tov, when Michel himself, the next generation, his son, Michel that we're talking about, Michel came to the Baal Shem Tov. So very interesting stories about him coming to the Baal Shem Tov. Very interesting stories. So there are two, and they don't see exactly which. There's different versions in the story. So see which. Let me just get a second here. According to one version, the Baal Shem Tov had a student named Rabbi Kitzis. We once had a Melaveh Malkah for him. He was a senior student of the Baal Shem Tov. Holy neshamas, to bring them to the Baal Shem Tov. So he traveled to the Michel and Brod, and he tried to convince the Michel to come to the Baal Shem Tov. And the Michel didn't want to go. And after a lot of pestering and a lot of speaking to him about who the Baal Shem Tov is, unbelievable, he finally convinced him. As soon as Michel left the city of Brod and he started going with Rabbi Kitzis towards Mezhebush, or wherever the Baal Shem Tov was at that time, as they were making their way, he suddenly heard a basko. He heard a heavenly voice that said, the Lashon was, Ahaftot, the pasuk in Tehillim, in Perek Mem Hey in Tehillim, Ahaftot Tzedek, Vatisne Resha, Al Kei Meshachacha Elikim. There's a pasuk that says, you love righteousness, you despise rasha, wickedness. That's why God anointed you. So when a Michel heard that baskol from heaven saying that, it elevated him a little bit. After all, he's the son of Rabbi of Drovich. He knows he's an incredible high neshama. He's like crazy high neshama, who he was. And he's saying, here's a baskol. So he's thinking to himself that when he'll come to the Baal Shem Tov, the Baal Shem Tov will roll out the red carpet for him. That was his, whatever. On the highest of levels of whatever that the Baal Shem Tov be, especially since his father, whose father is, the Baal Shem Tov will give him. Anyways, the Baal Shem Tov knew he's coming, and the Baal Shem Tov the Baal Shem Tov says to his wife, a young man is going to come. He's going to be very hungry, and he's going to expect that you give him something to eat. So he said, you should know that, he said that the son of the Rav of Drobich is coming. I'm asking you to play like Yosef with the brothers, to give him a cold shoulder. Give him a cold shoulder. And if he asks you for something to eat, don't give him. Until, don't give him at all. Until he offers to help, he does something. Until he runs some errands for you. If he brings up the groceries, then you can give him. But until then, don't. Okay, so so he comes in, and he was very hungry. Mansh was starving, and he asked if there's something to eat. So she turns to him, the Rebbetzin of the Baal Shem Tov, and she says, she says, don't you see I'm sitting and sweeping the house and do that, and he has to eat? You have to ask him when I'm working, I'm sweeping the house. So he says, sorry, lady. He asks her for the broom. He takes the broom and he sweeps. She looks at him sweeping. She says, what a bottling. You don't even sweeping, you don't know how to do. She grabs the broom away from him after he sprayed, and she gave him something to eat. Then the Baal Shem Tov comes out, and the Baal Shem Tov gives him shalom and asks him what's his name, and he says he's the son of the Rav of Drovich. The Baal Shem Tov gives him a frown, a very harsh look, and the Baal Shem Tov says, "No, and what is if you're already the son of the Drovich and Vushishain? What is already if you're his son?" And Michel was very taken aback because he knew that his father was a tzaddik kaddish, and that the world, that on the highest realms, he knew that. So he thought that means that the Baal Shem Tov doesn't really know it. If the Baal Shem Tov is not getting excited about Rabbi Drovitcher and up there in heaven, it means that the Baal Shem Tov is not what they say he is. He's not connected up there, or else he would know. Anyways, he says, what am I doing here? And he decided to leave. You have a lot of stories. The stories of the Alter Rebbe, when he came to the Maggid, first came and then went back, was ready to leave. The Maggid came and was ready to leave. There's a lot of stories like that only works the second time. There's a certain, you have to really, really, really want to be. You don't necessarily catch it the first time. So he left and he went back home. When Abzev heard about that, he was very frustrated because he knew that this is not a fish you want to let go. So he went back and he begged him to come again. He pleaded with him and begged him. Finally, he agreed, and he decided to give it a second chance. But this time he decided to come, and he knew already that no one is going to tap him on the shoulder. He's coming like a simple chassid. He's going to come. He wants to connect. Nothing's going on. Anyways, when he came, the Baal Shem Tov says to his Rebbetzin, he says, you should know that Michel, the son of the great Rabbi Drovitcher, is coming. You knew him. She said, we'll see in a minute. You knew him still from Kittiv when she was still a girl. You knew his father, Rabbi from Kittiv, and therefore feed him, give him to eat, and because he's very tired. So when Michel came, he didn't go to her. He went right away because he knew he's not a mechubit now. So he went to the shul of the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov gives him shalom aleichem, and the Baal Shem Tov says, "Zos wissen, you should know that even if you hear a baskol, even when one hears a baskol, a heavenly voice, you love tzedek, you love righteousness, and you hate evil. wickedness. Al came Elokim, and because of this, the Eibishter anointed you. No, the Baal Shem Tov says, it could be that the whole anointment is that you'll be a rabbi in Zlotchov, and they'll pay you 8 coins a week. In other words, nicht necessarily that you'd be nimshach over here, like, you know what I'm saying, to be the Rav of the whole Ukraine and the Galil. They gave you a Mashiach. In other words, the Baal Shem Tov tapped him down a little bit. And then he realized that was his problem. In other words, the Baal Shem Tov gave him the message that his problem was that he walked in a little bit, there was something there. It was Erev Shabbos then. And the Michel prepared himself very, very intensely to be able to join the holy Baal Shem Tov for Mincha Shabbos. The Baal Shem Tov used to daven Erev Shabbos Mincha, Friday Mincha. We know the Baal Shem Tov was masakin all the neshamas and all the nitzutzim, everything the Baal Shem Tov was elevating, Shabbos, Erev Shabbos. We know the Baal Shem Tov was the one who was masakin that we say Hoidu. Hoidu Hashem that we say is the Baal Shem Tov's takana. Only started with the Baal Shem Tov, the Hoidu that we say before Pasach Eliyot. The Baal Shem Tov used to daven very long, like 3 hours, Erev Shabbos, every Erev Shabbos. So he, being Rabbi Michel, was such a Kabbalist and such an incredible, so he joined the Baal Shem Tov in the Baal Shem Tov's Yechudim. Literally, he was together with the Baal Shem Tov the whole Shabbos Mincha. It took a lot of work, but he was able to kind of like go along with the Baal Shem Tov and all the Yechudim that was the Baal Shem Tov was doing by Mincha. Then when it came to the Friday night meal, the Baal Shem Tov was only the Baal Shem Tov and his wife, and Michel was invited. And the Baal Shem Tov, so I think it doesn't say this specifically, but and Baal Shem Tov said to his wife, tell to the Rebbetzin, tell him you knew his father. Tell him about his father, about Rabbi Yitzchak. So she said, your father, when your grandfather went to Eretz Yisrael, remember we said earlier that his grandfather went up to Eretz Yisrael. Your father was a boy. He went himself, not with his wife. He went on his end of his life. He went up on his own. So your father was alone with his mother, and your mother sent him to go to a yeshiva. Came to the yeshiva, and in those days, the yeshiva, the boys in the yeshiva, when there was a new bacher, they had this. You know, it took a while till you proved yourself to be accepted. So yeah, the bacherim usually would take advantage of the newcomer, and they would basically make the bacher do all kinds of errands. You know, one guy would send you to go buy a pack of cigarettes. The other one would send you to go take the laundry. The other one would tell you to take the trash out. And that's was they meant it. I guess it was part of the any case of the initiation, as you say, as the initiation into it. He didn't like that. He was there, your father, a bitzikl. He said, I came to learn Torah. I mean, in the beginning, you ran an errand for him, and then everybody started making him a sugar. So when one of the Bachrim told him to go do something for him, he said he doesn't want to. So the Bachrim started like harassing him. So he cursed him. He cursed him with his father, with his Kolaloi Ba'aviv, whatever that means. He used his father's. He said he cursed him. And what happened was that Bachar died. It was like at the day. So then another Bachar went and slapped him in the face. So and as soon as that boy hit him, the other Bachar got very sick. So the Rosh Hashiva found out, and the Rosh Hashiva said that there is this kid over here who's messing. So he basically told him, I don't know your spiritual powers, this and this, but get out of here, because I'm not going to have you kill out all the boys in the yeshiva here. So he evicted him from the yeshiva. So not knowing, he continued. He came to the city of Kittiv. The Baal Shem Tov's brother-in-law, Rabbi Gershon Kittiver, was living there. And Rabbi Gershon took him into the house. And Rabbi Gershon said to him, he saw that he could see on him that he's. So he said to him, you can stay over here. No, food, you can come eat by me. I'll take care of you. I'll give you food and everything. But I don't have a place for you to stay. But I have a sister, and she has an inn, whatever, and she runs, and you can stay by. This was going to be later the Baal Shem Tov's wife. So it's interesting. Over here it says, Achoisi Almana, which I never heard that the Baal Shem Tov married an Almana, someone who was married already. That I never heard. Well, as I state over here, Achoisi Almana, my sister, the Almana. And okay. So she's relating now the story. So she says, I cleared the space for Michel, his father, a place for him to stay. He stayed there he was in yeshiva, and he would stay over here. For 3 years he was here. After 3 years in the yeshiva, my brother Reb Gershon called him and said to him, my son, you have a mother. Go back home. Your mother will see to it that you'll get married. You have to get married. Time to get married. So I packed him a lunch. This is what she says. I packed him a lunch. I helped him, his suitcase and everything get ready. And when he left, I said to him, this is the future wife of the Baal Shem Tov. She says to Michel's father, Rabbi Yitzchak Drovich, who's then a Bacher, she says to him, you think I did not see the pillar of fire that's upon your bed every day? And you think I didn't see that holy pillar of fire that was on your bed? I did see it. So Rabbi Yitzchak, this Bacher, turns to her and he said, if you were Zoich, if you merited to see that, I'm going to give you a bracha that you should marry an appropriate fellow, someone who is better than me, who is higher than me and greater than me. So now, this is what she said. The Rebbetzin relates to him. So now the Baal Shem Tov goes to him, to the Michel like this, and he says, so now, she says, your father was the one when he was talking about someone that's better than me. I'm the one who he said to the, and anyways, the next day, when he was davening Shachris, he tried to join along with the Baal Shem Tov again in the Kavanas. He managed to be on the train until Haidu. By the time they got which Haidu, the long Haidu, Lashem Kitayv Kiliyadam Chastai, right before Derez Vamuna, by the 26 Haidus. And when he got over there, he fell off the wagon. He just couldn't anymore. And he was lost. Because he saw the malachim, he saw what was going on over the market that was happening in the Baal Shem Tov's Haidu, that it was just too much for him. It just threw him off. And then the Baal Shem Tov said to him, such yichudim like I do, only someone who was born, only someone was born from an intimacy where there wasn't even the tiniest bit of physical pleasure. Only something. We know the Baal Shem Tov's father was a tzaddik of 90 years old when the Baal Shem Tov was born. And he was such a tzaddik beyond. So he says only someone like that with such a level neshama, which is interesting because Michel, we said earlier, was hardly. He said it was whatever. Talk about Michel's holiness. After Michel passed away, the neshamas from Gan Eden came to the Mendel Riminover. Ramendel Rimanov we spoke about him the last Melaveh Malkah, Ramendel Rimanov, and they begged him, and they said that they're having a lot of tzadis and getting shemayim, because Michel is part of the Beis Din Shalmaila, and because he was such a tzaddik who never, ever, ever, ever did any aveda whatsoever, the tiniest of the tiniest, therefore he's very, very makpid, especially in matters of holiness. He's very makpid. And the tzadis, the neshamas that are coming up, they're on gahak the tzadis with him. So they're asking the Mendel of Rimanov to please help out. And the Mendel of Rimanov was misader already that they should move him on somewhere else. That Michel should not be part of that Beis Din because he didn't understand the generation. He just couldn't even, he was not even. Before he passed away, he said as follows. He actually passed away when he was young. He was 55 years old. He passed away by Shalashudis. He was walking. He passed away, Mamash Misas Nashika. He passed away like Nadav and Avihu. He passed away he was walking. For 2 years, his family was protecting him because they knew that he's going into levels of dveikus that were scary. And especially Shabbos by Mincha. He's talking about he made the song B'nai Echala. He used to go into such dveikus, and they used to always have someone watching him. Punkt that Shabbos, he ran it. He was alone in the room, pacing back and forth. And he said, he was saying like this, it was Shabbos Pashas Vayelech, the day that Moshe Rabbeinu passed, the Parsha where it says Moshe passed away. And he was saying, Bahai Shata, this washing of Zohar, Bahai Shata or Bahai Rava Stalik Moshe. In this time, Moshe Rabbeinu passed away. And suddenly, his daughter saw him alone, and she saw his face ablaze, running back and forth, saying, Bahai Shaita Stalik Moshe. Moshe passed away at this, because Moshe Rabbeinu passed away on Shabbos by Mincha time. And she got scared. She ran to call her brother, one of the brothers, the 5 brothers. They came running in, and he ran over to his father and he grabbed him, but it was too late. His father at that time just like laid his head down on his shoulder, and that was his histalkus. He was 55 years old. That day in the Torah, he had an aliyah on that day, and it says in the pasuk, I think it was Parshas Nitzavim Vayelech, Hein, he had that aliyah where it says, Hein karvu yamecha lamos. So they read like this, Hein is 55, he was 55 years old. Karvu, it's close, yamecha, your days to pass away. Yamecha lamos, they said, is the yud, it stands for Yechil. Mecha lamos is Yechil Mechel. So Hein Karvu Yamecha Lamos, he passed away by in a dvekus. But there was a time that he was sick. Maybe it was then with the cheese. I'm not exactly sure. He was sick, and they were worried for his life. So someone came and was going to say vidui. He said to him, "We have to." A big tzaddik said, "You have to say vidui. You're supposed to say vidui before you passed away." He said like this: "Ich hab keinmal nicht getracht, was mir tar nicht. Ich hab keinmal nicht gerät, was mir tar nicht. Und ich hab keinmal nicht getan, was mir tar nicht." And that was his vidui. I said, I never thought what you're not supposed to think. I never spoke what you're not supposed to say. And I never did what you're not supposed to do. So he's tzaddik, kaddish, like on levels of at kedei kach. Hear a story. Because if there's one tzaddik, it was one tzaddik that people were very scared of. They were very scared of Rabbi Michel, because Rabbi Michel was he was machliach people. He really cleansed souls, but sometimes he put bleach. He was intense. The Melech of Lezensk related as follows: that he met a yid once. The Melech once met a yid. The holy Rebbe, the Melech of Lezensk, met a yid walking with a little suitcase, a backpack. And he said to him, "Wie gehst du?" He said, "I'm going to the Michel. Shabbos." He says, "To who?" He says, "To the Michel of Zlotchov." And Michel says, "Are you going to the Michel?" He says, "I also once went to the Michel." He said, when I was young, I found out that the Michel's not far from me. I went to see him. So when I came to the town where he was, I come into the house. I see the house is empty. No one is there. So I wonder, where's everybody? So I go into another house, and I knock on whatever. I see no one is home. Going through all the homes, I'm seeing literally no one is home. Till I come to a place, I see an old woman in the kitchen. And I said to her, I said, "Babushka," I said, "What happened over here? Where's everybody?" They said, "Oh, this Rabbi Michel came, and he made Yom Kippur over here." Everybody ran to shul because they're all in shul like it's Yom Kippur today. Why? Because Rabbi Michel came and he told everybody their sins. It says, and everybody ran to shul to daven and cry and daven because. So the Melech said, "I heard that, I ran away." But I love it. In due case, and you're going so nonchalantly. You're going to see the Michel Zlotchov. One time when he was in a place, the people were coming in, and the Michel was kind of cleansing them, let's just say. And when the people were leaving from the room, so they were telling the people that were waiting online, they said, "Don't go in." They said, "Don't go in." So the people decided that, you know what? They put their hats down like this, because it says that all the sins are on the forehead. So they put their hats down, and they came in, and the Michel said, "I see through the hat." It's a helft nicht. L'chaim. Next one. Yeah. We have to think that Michel is a Soides Rachmim Rabbim. Oh, yeah,
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
In the next in our next time we're going to sing the very special niggin that the Baal Shem Tov said something very special. The Frierdiker Rebbe in his Sichos in Tafshin Gimel, the Frierdiker Rebbe says, I heard from my father, from the Rebbe Rashab, who had a Kabbalah, who heard from his father, from his Zayda, who heard from the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe heard the Kabbalah from the Mezritcher Magid, which the Mezritcher Magid was there when it happened. That before the Baal Shem Tov's passing, the Baal Shem Tov asked they should sing the Yes'oider des Rachmim Rabim song, the evoking of great compassion. That Rabbi Michel was the one who composed the song Yes'oider des Rachmim. And this was a promise the Baal Shem Tov made right before his passing. And he said, I promise for generations that no matter where, including Los Angeles, and Heichan, and it doesn't make, in other words, when and where, it doesn't make a difference when or where, when people will sing this niggin, this Oides Rachmim Rabim niggin, and they will sing it with an awakening of tshuva, so no matter which Heichal I will only be, no matter in whichever chamber I will be in, I will hear. Because there are malachim who bring information over to neshamas. I will join the singing, the Baal Shem Tov says, I will join the singing and I will evoke mercy, Rachmim Rabim, great compassion, on those that are singing the Baalei Tshuva, that are feeling a feeling of Tshuva when they're singing the Niggin. The promise of the Baal Shem Tov. So we're going to get to the Niggin in a few minutes. I just want you, if you're here already till now, so stay along to sing that Niggin. But I do want to honor the women, and therefore I want to tell you a little bit about Michel's wife. So the holy Rebbetzin of Michel. So number one, how did he get married? His marriage came about. His father, Rabbi Yitzchak, once traveled to a certain town, to an innkeeper. No, not an innkeeper. The guy was a pretty wealthy man. I think he had a big inn, but he was a wealthy fellow. And he said to him, we're doing a shidduch. My son, I have a son. I want to, obviously, when you're up there, you can open up. Instead of having to speak to a shadchan and all of that, you check out in the book. So he knew right away, and he came. And the person was masking. I guess he knew who was suggesting his own son. Anyways, but he demanded a high nadin. He said, I need a lot of money for my son. I need you to promise. I need to take very good care of him. He says, because he's shining from one end of the world to the other end of the world. I have my son. He shines from one end of the world to the other end of the world. You better take care of him. So you should set aside for him a room where he can be his boydedus. And there's a certain amount that he promised that they're going to give for the chassan and kala. We don't have much information about the wedding. His wife's name in most of their Kabbalah of them is called Rachel. Her name was Rachel, and they called her Rachel. However, in the Baal Shem Tov Siddur, there is mentions Reb Michel. He would daven for his students. It mentions Reb Michel and it mentions his wife Sarah. So maybe she was called Sarah Rachel. I'm not sure, but that's where what happened was. So there's very interesting stories about her. The initially part of the deal was that from the monies of the wine, they had wine. They made wine. There was a winery there, and from the wines that from monthly they would get from the profits, they would get a certain amount that would be set aside for the couple. And this is the way it was at the beginning. And Michel suddenly said, "I don't like this." He said to his wife, "I don't like this because I don't feel good that my parnasa is dependent on people. And I have to get the paycheck from my father-in-law. I don't want to feel dependent on people. I want to have a parnasa from something that is more directly from the Eibishter. So how about we get a cow?" That's what he said. We buy a cow, and the cow will give milk, and every day we'll have fresh milk, and that's already coming directly. It's directly more like direct from Hashem. Shine. So that's what they did. She was masking. They got a cow, and she was milking the cow, and they would sell the milk, and they made a little parnasa. And then he comes to her and he says, Nain, he says, I don't want to feel that parnasa comes from a cow. That my parnasa is from a cow. That I'm relying. He says, you should shech the cow and give all the meat away for tzedakah. Okay. She knew her husband is a big tzaddik. She had the cow shechted, and she gave everything, the entire cow, which was their possession, their parnasa. She gave it all for tzedakah. She saved one leg of the cow, one leg, and she said that's going to be for Shabbos. She put it away, and he comes to her and he says, "I had a dream. I saw a cow. I don't have a dream. I didn't see that dream." He said, "I saw in Shemayim a cow walking around with 3 legs." So it's interesting. So she understood right away that he's not happy that she saved that for themselves, and she gave away the last leg as well. So here's an amazing story. One time was Matzah Yom Kippur, and Michel, of course, Yom Kippur, no one eats. Matzah Yom Kippur, she prepared food for her husband, but he didn't break his fast. So the next morning she comes and she brings him food, and he's not eating. So she says to her husband, last night I didn't bother you to eat because I thought that maybe you're not feeling well. But why not eating today? She says, how can I eat when I don't even have an esrog yet? It's Motzei Yom Kippur. I don't have an esrog and a lulav. How can I eat? Because they were poor. I mean, it looks like whatever they had then, somehow that all got lost, and now they were without anything. So she said, I don't have a lulav and esrog. How can I eat? So she says, I do have a gold coin that I set aside to buy a present for our son Yossel when he gets engaged for the Kala. I set aside when I sold my jewelry. I have one gold coin that at least for my daughter-in-law, for our son Yossel. The oldest son was Yossel from Yampol. That's where he's buried in the city of Yampol. We visited Rabbi Michel with the Baal Shem Tov Sefer Torah. We visited Rabbi Michel's place and we wrote a letter there. It was very, very special. We were there. We actually stayed. There's a by Rabbi Michel of Zlotchov. He's buried in the city of Yampol, which is in Ukraine. There is a whole hotel there. It's one of the stations now with the Ukraine war. I'm not sure exactly where things are, but when you go around Ukraine, it's a worthy stop to go to the Michel, and they have a whole setup over there. In any case, she said, I set aside the coin for a present. But you know what? For your lulav, if this is what, if you're not eating, I'm gonna give you the coin. You can buy a lulav and a net. He was so happy, and he took the coin and fine. And because he was so busy for the next few days, because he had to look and search for a lulav and an esek, he was able to find. Meanwhile, he couldn't be busy with the sukkah, so he had his sons take care of the sukkah. So his sons, he had 5 sons, we said before that, with the Chamisha Chum Shetayra. So they were making the sukkah, and they placed it kind of in the yard where they always made the sukkah. Fine. And he comes the first night of Sukkot. He has his lulav and esrog. Comes the first night of Sukkot, and he tells the boys, he says, you should call your mother in. It looks like it seems like maybe it was cold. I remember that maybe women didn't go into, only the men were in the sukkah. I'm not exactly sure what the story was, but he said, call your mother in for Kiddush. So she came in, and she's there for Kiddush, and she's crying. Right? She's there for Kiddush, and she has a moitzi, and then she cried, and she left the sukkah. He doesn't say anything. The next morning, he takes the Daled Minim out, and he's all excited, shake the Daled Minim, and he again calls his wife in, that she should shake the lulav in the sukkah. She comes in, and she makes the brach, and again she's crying. So he said to her, why are you crying? I saw last night you crying. Today you're crying. What's veinst? So she said, how can I not cry? I'm not seeing Eliyahu Hanavi. I didn't see him last night. I didn't see him today. Always when I come in the sukkah, I see Eliyahu Hanavi. And she said like this, she says, we live a very hard life. Poverty is gefährlich. So what makes me feel good at least is that I see Eliyahu Hanavi in the sukkah all the time. But last night and today, I didn't. So, and it must be that I'm unworthy. That's what she said. It must be that I'm unworthy to see Eliyahu Hanavi. So the Rabbi Michel said, no, you're a tzaddik. It's nothing wrong with you. He says, it's my fault. So she said, no, you're a tzaddik gomer. It's not you. I know it's not you. So, okay, they're arguing first, eh? So he tells her, he promises, but you know what? From now, every time you'll come, you'll see Eliyahu Hanavi. So it was. The rest of the sukkahs, she saw Eliyahu. Why? What was the story? Eliyahu Hanavi was always coming to their sukkah. Norvas then, Eliyahu Hanavi didn't come because not far from there was a church, and there was a big cross, and the shadow of the moonlight shadow at night, the moon shadow was going on the sukkah from the cross, and by day there was a shadow from the sunlight that was being blocked, and that was reflecting on the sukkah. Every year when Michel used to make his sukkah, he was aware of it. And he always positioned the sukkah that it should not be under that, it shouldn't catch that. But this time, because he was busy with the esrog and the lulav, so that's why he actually blamed himself. He said it was my problem. Because he wasn't involved in making the sukkah, and his kids made it, and they didn't know this. So they set it up. So this is his wife. She used to see Eliyahu Hanavi. She was a very, very holy lady. the Yisrael of Ruzhin, the Heilige Ruzhin once came out, was once waiting for the Seder. It was the Pesach by night, and he was waiting to start the Seder. And he asked, how come what's taking so long? Why is the Seder not ready? That's the women's department. So they said they're waiting for the miyucheses. The people said they're waiting for the miyucheses. What's miyucheses? For the woman who has the yichus. The woman who has the yichus. What was that? It was a shtech. All the Ruzhiner's daughter-in-laws were very big miyucheses. They all had very high lineage. They all came from the Ruzhiner himself was an anikel of the Maggid. They were very, very holy people. One of his daughter-in-laws was from a simple family. So the other people, and it looks like this daughter-in-law was a little verschlepped. She couldn't. She was taking her time, whatever. She was busy with something. She wasn't there. So they said they're not ready for the Seder because they're waiting. And in order, they said they called him miyucheses, like the chepezich with her, like the one who's not miyuches, like that. So the Ruzhin said that the wife of the Michel of Zlotchov was a daughter of an Arander. Arander is an innkeeper. She was the daughter of an Arander. And they say that the Chamishe Chumshe Torah were her credit, not even her husband's. In other words, the fact that she had 5 children that were the Chamishe Chumshe Torah, so the Machnish Tavek, the women that are not miyucheses. That was the Ruzhin's statement regarding his daughter-in-law. They say, Yesh Oimrim, they say that the 5 Chamishe Chumshe Torah of the 5 sons of the Michel were because of the wife, not because of. But just one more, we're talking about the poverty. They lived in extreme poverty. And one time the Baal Shem Tov sent a person he's going by the town of Zlotchov. He said, go send regards. When you're there, ask for a Michel and give him my regards. So this Yid passes by Zlotchov and he asks where the Michel is. First, no one knew who he's talking about. This was because the Michel used to daven and he looked like a Meshuggah when he davened. So later he became a big Rebbe, but in the beginning of early months of the time, his davening was with craziness. He would bang his head on the wall. He would bleed. People thought he's a lunatic. A lot of these tzadikkim, those who didn't get what's going on. He was he was asking who's Michel. Whatever. Finally, someone figured out, and they said, you mean him? He said, the Meshuggah, you mean the Frum and Meshuggah. That's what they said. You mean the Frum and Meshuggah? He said that. So he said, yeah, but you can't talk to him. He ignores. You talk to him. He says, the only way you can get his attention. So he said, how do I get his attention? The only way you can get attention is if you ask him to eat. Because if you ask him to eat, he'll run and get you something to eat. But other than that, you try to stop him during davening or during the kids, you can get it. Okay. So he comes to him, and he was middle of davening or whatever, and he said to him that I'm hungry, I need to eat something. And he didn't hear him. He said it like a few times. Suddenly he realized that a Yid needs to eat. He took off his thing, and he went running. What happened was he took a sefer. He had a sefer. He didn't have what to buy. He had no food. So he took one of his sefer. He went to the bakery, and he gave it for a mashkin, for collateral. That hold on to it. I'll pay you, and he brought bread and butter, and he came back, and he served this Yid. He had his wife. They put out a tablecloth. He had an oirech. He gave him to eat. And in the midst of this, he looks around the kids, Nebuch. They look impoverished. They're walking without shoes, cold. It's geferlich. What looked like the house looked terrible. It was dilapidated. The whole thing was mamish rachmanis. And this Yid tells the Michel, he says that you should know, that I have regards from the Baal Shem Tov. Ooh, this made him so excited. It is for the Baal Shem Tov. This Yid couldn't contain himself. And he said to the Michel, ich verstehe nicht, he says, you live in such poverty. Can't you daven to the Eibishter to give you a little harchava, give you a little something to live in such difficulty and such hardship? So then Michel told him as follows. He's easy to think about, like where Tzadikkim's minds are. He said like this. He said, you should know that the king had a son, a prince, one and only child, and the prince fell ill. And the entire palace and the whole place was going crazy because the prince is sick, and the king was so disturbed and so was panicking. And the whole place was mamish on. Everybody was trying to call doctors and everything you can do to save the prince. Meanwhile, in the palace, there was one of the maidservants, one of the servants in the palace had borrowed an earthen pot from a neighbor from somewhere over there, and she didn't return it. So in the midst of the whole commotion that the prince is sick, this neighbor comes to the palace, and she's making a commotion, and she's yelling at the other person. She says, give me back my pot. You owe me a pot. And she's screaming, give me my pot, my clay pot. So he says, no, gerecht is she. She's right. But what kind of panim? Was for a panim is this? When the prince is sick, when the prince is ill. And he said, an erdene, the Lashon over there was, an erdene, and something, what was the word? What was the word? It was just a geschmack of werte that he used. He basically was saying, when the Shechinah is in exile, and in heaven there's so much pain because the Jewish people are ill, I'm going to stand and ask the Eibishter, he said, for an earthen keli, for an earthen pot. He couldn't even imagine. It says, you're right. It's a normal, but in such a case, I think it's a little bit, we're going through right now what's happening in Israel, like things like that. And sometimes we have this forgetting, and we get so caught up in our own mishagas when we can think for a moment. So he couldn't ask for parnasa because he felt ashamed that at the time when the palace is in pain, that he's going to come and he's going to daven and ask for his own Erdenef. Yeah. That's the story. L'chaim. I said the story. The story is that before the, yeah. No, it's no longer Nigan. We're singing this Oide des Rachmem Nigan now. I don't know more than the history. Then I said that Ebed Shab said that someone. Oh. Hi.
We have to sing it one more time. This is not good enough.
Okay?
We need to do one more time.
We say we're going to do one more time.
Bro, it's Tzadikkim, come here. That's right. Take the mic. Come. No. Just no, we're not doing it like it's supposed to be. Come. It's okay. There's no there's a few like.
There's a few in the snooze.
Yeah, we have to do it properly.
He says we have to do it. Who knows the niggin?
We can't mess it up. We have to do it the right way. I think we missed a few kunzim over there. So come, let's sing together. Guys, if you didn't know, Rabbi Tzadikkim also knows how to sing. He's,
Chaim, Hashem should have Rachman for all the Yidden, all the hostages should come out now, all the soldiers, only be Rachman Rabim for all of the Jewish people. Chaim and Lebracha. Amen. I'm just going to relate one story, important story that I forgot to say. It's a lot of stories, but there's an important one. I said earlier that Michel was a little bit sometimes demanding. So here's a story where the Baal Shem Tov is softening up Rabbi Michel. He's softening him up and making him a little bit more Hasidic, in the sense that to be a little bit more in tune with the people. So the story goes that there was a Yid who accidentally, because got late on Friday, and accidentally he violated something regarding Shabbos. And he really felt bad. He was Michel Shabbos. It bothered him. And he came to the Michel to ask him for a tikkun. What kind of tikkun he can have. Michel Shabbos, serious situation. So the Michel goes and gives him a tikkun. What's the tikkun? It's like it says in Sefer Rekeach, a certain amount of fasts, a whole list of fasts, a bunch of fasts, other types of mortifications, a couple of rolls without clothing in the snow, a couple of different types of things that you do in order to take upon himself certain afflictions. And this Yid, really was, okay, this is what you need to fix it up. I'm going to fix it up. He began, but, after a couple of things, it was getting very difficult. And he was feeling that his body is not strong enough to be able to handle it. He heard that the Baal Shem Tov was not far. So a town, Baal Shem Tov was passing by. So he went to see the Baal Shem Tov. And he asked about, he didn't say to anything that he went, because when you go to ask a Rav a Shaila, you're not allowed to, you're not allowed to go ask another Rav unless you tell the other Rav that you asked, right? Yeah, if you say that you went to someone else and you're allowed to, but he didn't tell the Baal Shem Tov that he went to the Michel. He just asked the question, what should he do? So the Baal Shem Tov said to him, you should buy a pound of candles and you should bring it to shul and you should give it for Shabbos to shul. That they should send licht in the shul for Shabbos. You're going to donate candles to the shul for Shabbos. He was expecting, he was hoping the Baal Shem Tov would give him a little bit of easier, but he didn't expect that all he has to do is buy a pack of candles and give it to the shul, and it's all done. So he looked very puzzled, and the Baal Shem Tov can see that he looked puzzled. So the Baal Shem Tov asked him, why are you so puzzled? So he said, there's someone around the corner who I went to see a little while ago, and he told me, and he gave me a little different list, and he basically told him what it was. So the Baal Shem Tov said, no, just do as I say. Dismiss what Rabbi Michel told you. It's okay. Just buy So the person is so besimcha, this is easy to fix. He gets himself, he buys the candles, and he goes to the shul, and he's looking for the shamus of the shul because he wants to hand him the candles that the shamus should light them. Meanwhile, he doesn't see the shamus, so he sees like a little hook sticking there. So he takes the bag of candles and he puts them up on the hook, and he leaves. Meanwhile, there was a dog there, and the dog came and grabbed the whole bag and ran away with the candles. And when he comes to the shamus, and he says to the shamus, "No, you lit where's my candles?" And the shamus said, "I didn't see it." Oh, said, "Yeah, I saw a dog running, and the whatever ran away with the candles." So he got really hurt because he realized that his tshuva is not being accepted. The Baal Shem Tov told him the tikkun is to buy candles, and now the dog came and ran away with his candles. So he was feeling really bad. So he went back to the Baal Shem Tov, and he said, "This is what happened with a broken heart, that my tshuva is not being accepted." The Baal Shem Tov says, "Don't worry. Go buy another thing of candles, and this time it's going to be okay. And go see the Michel and tell him that I want to see him." Because the Baal Shem Tov realized that this is Rabbi Michel's dog that he sent to steal the candles. Because, anyways, Rabbi Michel comes to the Baal Shem Tov. Rabbi Michel comes to the Baal Shem Tov, and the Baal Shem Tov had it that he was coming on Friday, and he got stuck in a storm, and he ended up being in the outskirts of the town. And come with Saris, he had to walk the last bit to get to Mezhebush. Time he got there, it was already in Shabbos. He didn't get a chance to prepare for Shabbos. It wasn't Michel Shabbos, but he didn't have any preparation. And the time he got, and the Baal Shem Tov was waiting, and the Baal Shem Tov was ready to make Kiddush. And a Michel walked in. I think the Baal Shem Tov made Kiddush, and then the Baal Shem Tov turned to him. And the Baal Shem Tov said, Michel. He says, Jetzt verstehst du schon. He says, now you understand, he says. When a Yid comes to ask a tikkun for you. He says, what does a person like you who never sinned know what kind of broken heart the person has, a Yid has when he doesn't have it? Was verstehst du? You have no understanding in it. And because of this, you're giving people. He says, the Baal Shem Tov says when a Yid has a broken heart after he doesn't have it, that already washes off the whole Aveda. You have to do apsatikkun. So something you have to be misakin, but it's a brach in the hearts. And being, so even a pack of candles is enough of a tikkun. This was the lesson that Rabbi Michel needed to learn about giving tikkunim for people. And Michel himself, however, one of the things that people used to do, big tzadikkim in those days, is they loved to live lives of seclusion, where no one bothers them, no one knows where they are, no one is making them crazy. So many of them would hire themselves out to become a melamed, to become a teacher usually these innkeepers, people who lived in a little town where no one else lived. So they had children, and they used to have a melamed that would room and board by them, and they would pay them a little small salary to teach the children. So for these tzadikkim, it was a good job. That was like the preferable job. Why? Number one, what are you doing? You're teaching children Torah. So you can teach them, you can instill your Shemayim in them, Jewish kids. Secondly, you can be alone. But everybody used to get these, all the tzaddikim, people when was the time to look for these jobs was before the school year. What was the school? It was an Elul. Elul was the time that anybody who seeked out to be a Malamed somewhere would get his job fixed at the Elul. But Michel, during Elul, so busy with Elul, I didn't think of it. After Elul, after Tishrei, he starts looking for a job. Everything's taken. But then he realized that there is a town high up on the mountain. High up on a, and he figured that there probably no one got to. So he made his way up. It was very high up. And he figured it's also a good place because there's a lot of snow there, and he liked snow a lot for his Gilgul Sheleg and stuff like that. And also it's going to be alone. No one is going to know from him. He can be misguided. Okay. He goes there, and so behold, the guy the job wasn't taken. So he offered himself up as a Malamed. Fine, he got the job. And they right away saw that they have a special yid with them. So they treated him with a lot of respect, and they honored him. They gave him whatever. They realized, they saw he's a little weird because he does weird stuff. They saw him rolling in the snow and doing all this kind of weird stuff, but they figured, okay, fine. So happened that one time he was out doing his thing in the forest, and it was at night, and a wagon of people were coming by, and suddenly they picked up a person. They see a person, and they got closer. They saw that looked like a Meshugana, and they decided to have some fun with this kook. So they ran out, and they took their whips, and they started beating him. They beat the guy up. And Nebuch, then they came to the inn, and they obviously they weren't the best people. They were just wicked people. And they were laughing. They were a little drunk. And they laughed, and they started making fun about this guy in the forest so he heard the innkeeper Gaval, and he realized that this is his Malamed. This is what he does. So they ran out, and he managed. They picked him up, and he brought him to the inn. They gave him a little schnapps to drink to warm him up, to get him. He was beaten. He was ill. And they revived him. And he said, I knew it would be good over here, but azoygit, hab sich nicht gedacht. And for such good, this is like, doesn't get better than this. Doesn't get better. And another interesting, beautiful story. Well, we have to wind it down, but the stories with Michel are just absolutely amazing. He once said like this. He says, when I come on the other world, they're going to ask me, why didn't you learn Shas, Gemara, Medrash, Safra, Sefri? Why didn't you? I'll say, no. I didn't have the head. They'll say to me, why didn't you fast every Monday and Thursday? I'll say, no, I was weak. I didn't have the body to be able to fast. They'll say to me, so how come you didn't give tzedakah? I'll say, no, ich bin gewesen another man. So they're going to say to me, and I'm a audits bist du gewesen. You're an amoritz. Weak, you're a weakling too. And a pauper too. So why were you so haughty? And of them will ich nicht haben, and of them will ich nicht haben katshula. So the gaiva, he said for this, he's talking about what kind of gaiva. But in any case, Reb Chaim of Chernovitz, who was known as, his yard site is in Tevis, known for his famous Sefer Sedurei Shel Shabbos, and also Be'er Mayim Chaim. This is in the Hasidic world outside of Chabad. These are the fundamental Sfarim of Hasidus that beginners start. I learned all the Sfarim. I spent hours learning the Sfarim of the Be'er Mayim Chaim when I was 13, 14, 15. This was my early Hasidic learning. It's easier to read. It's a lot of Mishalim. It's a very fiery Sfarim. He was a student a Chassid of Michel. One time he was sick at the end of his life. He was ill, and the doctors had given up already. And suddenly, out of nowhere, people were there, or someone was there. He jumped up and he screamed, "Oi, oi!" And the person around him, they said, "What happened to him?" Because he was so weak, he couldn't move a limb. And suddenly, he said, "What do you mean? I saw the Baal Shem Tov." I just saw the Baal Shem Tov. And then later, and then he explained, he said, I was very ill and I was already feeling that my life is coming to an end. And I was started drifting off. And in the middle, I see the Baal Shem Tov. So I run over to the Baal Shem Tov and I said, Heilige, the Rebbe, Baal Shem Tov. He says, have Rachmanis on me. Daven for me. I still want to live. Daven for me. The Baal Shem Tov said, what can I do? Kvar nigzir gzeira. The decree is already there. I can't help you. So I said to the Baal Shem Tov, I said, Michel, every Shalosh Shuddis used to say Torah. He used to sing a lot Shalosh Shuddis and say Torah. And he always would mention, there wasn't a Shalosh Shuddis that he wouldn't say something from the Baal Shem Tov. He would always mention something from the Baal Shem Tov. He was masked the Baal Shem Tov every Shalosh Shuddis. So there was one time that the Shalosh Shuddis was dragging on so long that it was morning already. It was day, literally. They made Shalosh Shuddis, went throughout the entire night, and the next thing they knew it's morning. And Michel turns and Michel says, oh, let's bring Mayim Achrayim. You should bring Mayim Achrayim to bench. So I turned to Michel and I said, but you didn't mention from the Baal Shem Tov. So he says, oh, yes. And he asked they should remove the Mayim Achrayim, and he said something from the Baal Shem Tov, and then they benched. So I said to the Baal Shem Tov, this is what he's saying. I said to the Baal Shem Tov, I'm sure by the Torah, and I'm the one who gave you that Nachas Ruach. So that should be my schus. Imagine what kind of schusim we have when we mention the Rebbe's Torah around the world. He says, that should be my schus that Michel mentioned you because of me. So the Baal Shem Tov says, so I'm going to daven, I'm going to see to it whatever I can. I'm going to bench you. That's what it is. I'm going to bench you. And the Baal Shem Tov put his hands down on my head. And at the beginning, he said, before I jumped, I was still, my soul was not really that much in my body. So I was quiet. But the moment the Baal Shem Tov put his hands down on my head and I started feeling my keiches coming back to me, and I suddenly realized, I felt the power of the Baal Shem Tov's bracha I felt his hands on my head. That's what he said. I felt his hands on my head. So that was his oi that he yelled out. Then he was gesund again. There is a very famous story, which is a long story to tell, which I won't tell, but I'm just going to tell you the story. Is the story about him writing on a piece of paper that you're not allowed to marry a sister. It's a famous story. It's in the books about a boy that the family ran away because they had to escape the pirates, and they left their baby by mistake because they made a bris and they forgot the baby, and the baby grew up, and the baby grew up as a guy, as a non-Jew. It's a good story. Let me tell this. One more story. So the story is as follows. That there was a family that was needed to pay rent. They failed on their payments, and they took the family as the landowners would do and locked them up. And the family was there for quite a while, and the woman gave birth to a baby. And people who heard about it came and begged the pirates that at least they should let them make a bris. The pirates gave permission. And the people arranged, and the pirates made sure there should be guards and everything. And the people came and they made a bris, but they had wine and they had some mashka there. And they started giving everybody to drink. They gave the guards as well to drink. And then everybody got drunk. And the guy who was in charge, I don't know, has a certain name which I don't understand in the book. So he was some kind of an official, some kind of a whatever. And he says to them, listen here. He realized he can make a quick dollar. He said, if you pay me, he said to these people, obviously not the amount of the ransom. The ransom was a huge amount of money, but if you pay me a significant amount of money, he tells the people, I have 3 horses. They're really quick. The guards are sleeping. We'll put them in. I'll get the family out. We'll get them in an hour. We'll be far away. And then they'll escape. And why should the family stay over here? And they decided it's a good chance to get away. This was a chance to get away. So the They paid the guy. He took them out. They left. And they were already halfway there. They suddenly, they realized they forgot the baby. The whole thing was a bris. And they were running with the whole rip. They forgot the baby. And they begged, you have to go back and this and that. He said, there's no way we can go back now because it's dangerous. The people might wake up and we get into trouble and the whole story. So they left. When the pirates, when they came back and they saw what happened, the pirates was really mad and upset. How did they get away? And they sent out people to search for them. They couldn't find them. In the end, he took the baby. He didn't keep it. There was someone, I think this guy who snuck them away, that's the guy who didn't have any children. And he said he's going to raise the kid. So he raised the kid when he was about 6, 7 years old. He taught him how to be a shepherd out in the field. He was out with the other kids, and suddenly one of the kids got angry. Whatever, the kids started teasing him, and they said, who do you think you are? You think he's his son? You're not his son. You're a Jewish kid. And he said, no, I'm not. He had no idea. And they said, anyways, they said, the proof is you're circumcised. And they're not. So when he realized that, he decided, well, if I'm Jewish, I want to be Jewish. So he waited for a day that he can run away from his house. When his parents left, his adopted parents, when they left, for a day or two, he managed to leave. He ran away, came to a town. He told them he's Jewish. And they told him, and he said, I was Gemalit, I was told whatever, and I'm a Yid. And they believed him. And I guess he had a Yiddish Tzura face. So they changed his clothing, and they got into a Rabbi, and someone took him in, and they taught him Aleph Beis, they taught him everything. And so, till he was about 13, 14, he went to yeshiva. And after a while, he became a Talmud Chacham. And he would go, and he became a Melamed. This boy became a Melamed for children. He became a school teacher. And also in an inn like this, where the guy needed a private tutor for the children. This innkeeper, the one in charge of him, was a chassid of the Michel Zlotchov. And he said to him, I'm going to a big Rebbe, maybe you want to come. So he says, and he said to him, he's a big tzaddik, he can see things. He says, yeah, I'm very curious where my parents are. So maybe I can come, I'll come with you. They went, and first the other went in, and then he came in, the boy came in afterwards. He was the teacher. And he said to Michel, he's looking for his parents. Michel didn't tell him much. And Michel said to him, Michel took a piece of paper and wrote something, put it into a sealed envelope, and told him, and he stuck it, and he said, he pinned it. He pinned it to him under his collar or whatever, under his belt or somewhere. And he said that make sure that you don't open this up ever, only on the day of your chasana. On the chuppah, you should make sure that there should be a Rav there who's Masad the Kedushin, and let the Rav show it to the Rav. So he had left this inn and he went to work somewhere else. It was far away. And over there was someone who used to come to the innkeeper who was a rich guy. And he was friends there. And suddenly he met this new Melamed, and he started, for some reason, he took a real liking to him. He really liked him. And they came very close, and he said, I have a daughter, and I really think you would be great for my daughter. So they decided to make a chasana, and the guy came, there was a big wedding, and they set up all for the wedding, and the chasana is going to the chuppah, and suddenly he remembers. And he says, cancel the chuppah. Because you remember that Michel says there has to be a Rav. And there wasn't a Rav. They were doing whatever. They had the Siddur Kedushin with the local shamans was doing it. The Rav wasn't there. So they pushed the wedding off for the next day, for tomorrow. The next day, they managed to get a Rav, and he was there, and under the chuppah, he took out the thing, and he said, look at it. He was standing next to the Kala. And they looked, and the Rav doesn't know what it is, because it says over there, Ha'im Yisa Isha Sachaisai. Will a person marry his sister? That was the thing that was written in it. And the Rav starts shaking, he doesn't understand, and the chassan looks at it, and the chassan sees it, and he suddenly gets this biggest jump with joy. And he starts, and they thought he's crazy, like what's going on? And he said that I went to the Michel asking where my parents are, where my family is. And this is what he wrote for me. And it must be that, and so they started asking questions. Where did he live? He lived in this town 19 years ago. That's when they escaped. Turns out this was the father. The Kala was a sister. And it was a big simcha, but it wasn't a wedding. And That was the story, a famous story of Rabbi Michel. It says, by the way, the Alter Rebbe took two things from Rabbi Michel. The Alter Rebbe's the power of Negina he took from Rabbi Michel, songs and Negina. The second thing he took from Rabbi Michel was Moifsim. The Alter Rebbe wasn't into Moifsim, into miracles. And by the Magid he couldn't take Moifsim because by the Magid Moifsim was flowing under the table, but no one had a chance to pick it up. So when you were by the Magid, you were just concentrating on, so you didn't learn. But as a Rebbe, the Alter Rebbe said, you also have to know how to do Moifsim. And this he learned from Rabbi Michel, however Moifsim work. That was what he picked up from Rabbi Michel of Zlotchov. Anyways, l'chaim l'bracha. May the holy Rabbi Michel and all the other tzadikkim be Melaveh Malkah on Yidden. We need so much already now. The ultimate blessings. We need the Geula Shlema. May Mashiach be here now. L'chaim l'bracha. L'chaim.
B'nei Chorah, Yitzchak,
We mentioned earlier that this thing is not Michel thing. Alter Rebbe picked it up by his life. Don't forget the bench. How do we have the bench? Whoever didn't whoever wash. Oh, Chaim Shmuel. What is the story? Yeah? Foot soldiers, the foot soldiers.